Well, hey there YouTube, Travis here. So this is my new to me 1979 Honda Express 2. I finally entered the world of Honda and I'm actually pretty excited to be here. So, quick story behind this bike. Friend in the community mentioned to me he had two Honda Expresses for sale. This was the nicer of the two, and he was kind enough to let me walk away with this one for 150 bucks. Supposedly, it was running a couple days ago, and these models feature oil injection, so you don't have to pre-mix, but apparently, the previous owner was running pre-mix as well as oil injection and just fouled it out, so I'm hoping that this one will actually just be a quick carb clean before I am on the road. Now, this particular model is a Honda Express 2, but don't get too excited. This one is not a 2-speed. At least as far as I can tell. This is a 79, which was the first year of the Express 2, and Honda made very subtle changes to these pretty much every year, which I'll go through a little bit once we get a little later in the video, but regardless, it's still a gem to have. Okay, so the first thing you viewers might be thinking is probably similar to what the first thing I thought was that because this motor is so similar to the Honda Hobbit, I can start doing all sorts of crazy stuff with this. Pipes, carbs, kits, what have you. Unfortunately, that's not quite the case. Just because of the frame design on this guy, a lot of the pipes that are popular for Honda Hobbits, like the legendary Promo Circuit pipe, they just don't go on all that easy. There are, as of very recently, a few pipes specifically for Express put out, I believe by weekends, but don't quote me on that, that bolt right on. Those, of course, carry a premium price, but you get the great quality of that manufacturer. I am probably going to go the hack and weld route with a pipe, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. Kits for Honda Hobbits do fit, but you do have to start cutting some fins to really get them to fit, so that's not quite a guarantee either. Regardless, there's still a lot of fun that can be had to have with this guy. Okay, look at this part. This might actually be my favorite thing about it. This looks like a Kickstarter, right? Not so. Because if I go to kick it, I'm not turning the motor over right there. I'm actually compressing a spring. Alright, so that's compressed all the way there. And when I hit the rear brake lever, it's going to turn the motor over. That is just so goofy to me. So Honda made this model to kind of appeal to people that really didn't have any experience with motorcycles or even mopeds to start with. Hence the oil injection. Later models got turn signals, and if you're too weak to turn over a normal Kickstarter, well, I guess you got to be able to just wind up this little spring. So you guys might notice that there's some obvious design flaws from going with this design. Firstly, is if that spring breaks, well, you're kind of out of luck, or if your rear brake cable breaks, it might leave you stranded somewhere. So there is a tutorial online. They converted to Kickstarter. We'll see if I get to that point. This seems to be functioning pretty well. I've heard some funny stories from people who've had to like put 4 NARPs on the brake cable to get it to work, or start it with a hammer and all sorts of crazy stuff, but it's just a kind of a cute little quirky feature these things have. So for those of us unfamiliar with the Honda Express model, Honda made a bunch of these, and they're all sort of different. So it debuted in 1977, in 79, and it didn't look like this. The original one had a different seat, and I think it's slightly different frame. In 79, you got this guy, which is the Honda Express 2. It got obviously a little bit of a different frame and that extremely comfy seat right there. 1980, you got the turn signals and battery added on. 1981 and up, in my opinion, is probably the more desirable models to get. Those ones got a real Kickstarter plus a CDI. This one, of course, carries points and condenser ignition. And if you got a Honda Express 2, actually had a 2-speed. 1982 and up, there are few differences. They had an Urban Express model, which looks amazing, but I think all were 2 speeds after that point, and some even came with electric start. Woo! Alright, so I guess the real question is, what will happen with this one? So this will be getting a full mechanical once-over. It actually has the key, which I was pretty blown away by. It shows 911 miles on the clock. We'll see if the speedo works or not. Again, at least I know for Honda Hobbit speedos, the ends are different, the speedo cable, so they're tricky to get replacements for. High beam bulb is still there. This headlight bucket is in phenomenal shape, and if you're ever parting out one of these, this is one of the parts that people will kind of pay a premium for, because they're plastic, they're real easy to get cracked and damaged, and even when you take them off to replace the headlight, you can damage them, so lucky about that. It's got this really cool basket in the front. That's one of the mirrors there. Switches are all there. Choke cable is going to need lubed up or checked out, along with the front brake right here. But that's no big deal. Motor turns over, which is good. I have not checked for spark yet, but I'm hoping it does. Again, you got this awesome seat. We got taillight license plate bracket right here. Tires are going to get done eventually, but for now there's no cracking or dry rot on them, so I'm off to a pretty good start there. I think this just lifts up. So under here you've got your gas tank, which doesn't look super good in there, but whenever I move this sediment around, it moves, so it's not stuck to the tank walls. So 1 or 2 flushes and that ought to get pretty much back to where it needs to be. Here's your oil for your oil injection right there. And yeah, so once I do that mechanical once over, I'm starting to get to the point where I don't really have too much patience for a 30-mile-per-hour stalker unless it's beautiful and deserving. So when they're kind of rough like this, I want them to go a little bit faster than that. So my plans right now, I'm probably going to get my hands on a Honda Hobbit cylinder and head, do a little bit of mild porting on it, hack and weld bi-turbo pipe or whatever I can get my hands on. And they do now sell an intake to put on a Dell'Orto 1515 onto this guy. So we'll see if this ends up, running easy. That's probably what we'll do. Okay there, YouTube. Well, I'll keep you guys updated on the progress with this one. I'm no Honda wizard like Will was, but I'm pretty stoked to get into the no-ped world. I'm starting to like these more and more. A buddy of mine even picked up a Suzuki FA50 recently, and I was really blown away by the fact that it had a real Mikuni carb and oil injection that, did more than just pump it in right at the intake. It also lubed the crank bearings. So there's some thought that goes into these things, and they have the spirit of mopeds down, where you just really don't take yourself too seriously on these things, and you really don't have anything to prove. So alright, well, hope you enjoyed this little project and overview, YouTube. Until next time.